Well, the role I've played in the field of baraminology has been primarily, I think, one of being involved with editing, trying to get a journal going that is more professional and uh, one that where we could, produce our scientific research and publish it, especially within the field of baraminology, where we'd have a readership that would be interested in it and that sort of thing, but apply fairly rigorous standards that I was used to using or having applied to my work in conventional or secular circles and secular research and science.
What is your background?
Okay.
Scientifically?
Okay. My background is I'm a PhD in actually in evolutionary botany or plant evolution, and for many years I was a theistic evolutionist, but I struggled with that sort of feeling of lack of integrity of my spiritual and my professional worlds. So about almost 10 years ago, I decided that I should look at that question more thoroughly, which I'd never really done in my college and an earlier part of my career. So I took some time off, did reading, and reading not just of creationist things, but of things like college textbooks on radiometric dating, which I had not really read. I'd had courses in paleobotany, and fossil plants, but just assumed that the radiometric information was all correct. But I decided, I wanted to go back and actually now find out what were the assumptions involved with radiometric dating and that sort of thing. So after doing that, I came to the conclusion that a young Earth position actually explained the data better than conventional science. Well, I have a long-standing interest in island biology, and as a theistic evolutionist earlier in my career, I've done work in the islands off of the coast of Chile, and I've also collected plants and studied plants in the Caribbean. So, and then more recently, I've had a chance to visit the Galapagos as well. So, based on that, that's those things I studied there are patterns that even as an evolutionist, when I looked at those, those were real patterns, and I see them as a creationist now. So the patterns are real. It's simply a matter of the way that they're interpreted, in a young Earth versus an old Earth setting or framework. And so, much of what I've done in the past can really be applied directly to the making a creation model and looking at speciation on islands, because even within a creation framework, we understand those islands to be have come above the surface of the ocean after the flood, well after the flood. So the organisms there had to get there after the flood and diverge from colonizers. So we can use this as a baseline for looking at the amount of divergence within a kind. Now, and so a lot of the information I had from my earlier work as an evolutionist, can be applied to that as well. Well, I've benefited from being in the biology study group, originally called the baraminology study group, now called the BSG. Primarily the fellowship of other Christians who are really interested in sort of the classification of organisms, the origin of species and things like that in a biblical framework, to encourage each other to keep delving and doing research that bears on the question of how God allowed this to develop and look at it in a biblical framework, in a biblical timeline. And I find that very exciting. I have seen not only people that are interested in sort of the classification. I mean, generally, when you think of created kinds, you think of having a cat kind, a dog kind, a bear kind. Sort of basically a classification. But it's really a lot more than that, in that we have people interested in those sorts of questions, but people interested in questions about the genes, what's going on with the genetic information. So there are people that have expertise in molecular biology. There are people interested in geology and fossils that are very important in understanding how we fit the fossils into the whole picture. There are people interested in microbiology, but then, I'm not that interested in microbiology, but in this group I have started interacting with them, and we see how the symbiotic relationships are so important to even the life of all the organisms. And especially interesting question with that, which I had not really thought much about before being involved in the group, is how did sort of natural evil come about? And so microbiology, diseases, parasites are all very much tied to that. So I've now started thinking about that in terms of plants I deal with. How did those aspects of, say, prickles or poisons develop? How does that relate to the biblical framework of the fall and the curse? Of course, in terms of the full membership, we have several categories of membership: full, associate, student, and that sort of thing. Of course, we want people who are interested in doing research projects to help build a model. We need that, and those are generally people with some advanced degree. So those would be people that could be full members. But associate members are people that wouldn't have those degrees but are interested in what we're doing, want to support us, and of course, people that are able to donate to the study and the research and this sort of thing are certainly very welcome to be participating. We want students. We want to help bring up a new generation of people that can do research for future years. So in other words, looking at nature, can we see things about God? And I think that's definitely true. And orchids are one of the areas where we see his overflowing abundance, for example. And there are orchids that fill lots of different niches, in many parts of the world, from the tropics to the prairies, and so lots of different places. So we can see, in the diversification after the flood, diversification of the orchids, and filling those niches, how God is merciful to us to rebuild our world after the flood and still provide us beauty.